So the biggest trend in retirement these days is unretirement. Yes, people are coming out of retirement back into the workforce. Let's talk about this trend. So unretirement is the name given to when they've previously left the workforce and they return to work part-time or full-time, or maybe they start a new career or job. So they're not necessarily going back to what they did before. And according to CNBC, roughly 1 in 6 retired people are considering unretirement right now. So that's a huge amount. And for perspective, in any given year, you have about a little over 3% of the workforce that maybe retired a year before and they're like, I think I'm gonna go back to work. So we're seeing those numbers rise. We already see 20% of the workforce is aged over 65. So there is a trend towards people working older, and it's not just because of finances. The top reasons cited there, there's a couple of surveys here. One of them, the top reasons cited were personal reasons, 57%, needing more money, 53% said that, and they're getting bored, 52%. And another survey, maybe a little different demographic, found that only 27% of retired job seekers re-entering the workforce named financial reasons as a reason. The majority said they were coming back to give their days more structure. And in this survey, 60% of retirees returning to work said they were primarily looking for something to do. I'm like one of those people who never gets bored. There's always so much to do. But jobs are a big part of not only of people's income, but a big part of their social structure, their community, their friends, a big part of just their purpose, their reason for getting up in the morning, even if maybe they don't love their jobs. And one of the things I've always said, and I have a course called the Retirement Revival, and I've always said, sometimes it's time to retire from the career, the cubicle, or the commute. But that doesn't necessarily mean completely retiring. As a matter of fact, maybe my controversial opinion is that complete retirement, I think it's overrated. And because I've never completely retired, it's hard for me to say that, but I can't even imagine a world in which I'm looking to retire early and just not work anymore, because for me, work has value. Work is contribution. It is, doing the things that I enjoy doing, making a difference. It is giving and receiving and having that cycle going in my life. Now, I can imagine a life in which maybe I'm vacationing or not working, 10 weeks a year and doing more travel than I am now. So anyway, but people experience sometimes loneliness, lack of purpose, lack of structure, a lost sense of community. And it's very common for people to retire for 6 months or so and then start to rethink it. And I don't want to downplay the financial element, because I believe that's absolutely huge. And I think it's one reason why I'm grateful to see a trend towards normalizing, not retiring or not retiring at a particular age, because age is just a number. And I think there's all kinds of ways we can structure our later years so that we do get the extra time that we want for travel, for adventure, for spending time with family, and doing all kinds of things while still being able to contribute. As a matter of fact, somebody I know just retired like a year ago, and then I see he was a pastor, and then I see that he's taken on another job, and I'm sure they love him, and he's, enjoying being back in the saddle again. So I don't want to downplay the financial element. I think it really is huge. And inflation is a major factor for a lot of people. The average household expenses have increased by about $400 in the last year. That is no small amount. And that maybe, family with kids, but still. There's a lot of stock market volatility and uncertainty in the financial economic world, uncertainty about the stability of banks. Is our money safe? Are we going to see much larger crashes? There's uncertainty about the value of the US dollar, along with the future of inflation, and we could see some much larger pain in the economy because of those things. And the majority of Americans have undersaved for a typical or a traditional retirement. And I don't want to put that on the pedestal at all as what we should be doing, but that has been the model. The supposed model is you save up a whole lot of money and then at some point you stop working. It used to be that a lot of people had pensions. Of course, pensions have largely gone out of style, but the average retirement balance, this is average, so you're averaging your multi-millionaires in as well, for age 60 to 65 is just below 200,000, and the median, which would be, median is you've got half of the people above that, half of the people below that. Again, for age 60 to 65, the median retirement account balance is $53,000. Which is not nothing, but if you're going to be drawing, even a couple $1,000s, that's going to go really quickly. So millions of Americans are just simply financially unprepared for a typical traditional retirement, according to U.S. Census Bureau. And this is very interesting, balance this with what I just said about the average and the median. According to U.S. Census Bureau data, 50% of women and 47% of men between the ages of 55 and 66 have no retirement savings. So for them, Social Security would be the only thing. And, Social Security, it's great, don't know that we can depend on it or rely on it. That may be another video, but it is for most people, nowhere near enough, to live on. It's really just designed to be a supplement. Well, in the early days of retirement, it might have been a little different because people received Social Security and, they were typically passed on, within the next year or two, so it didn't need to sustain them very long. It's very different now when we have, people sometimes retiring at 65 and living to 100, that's 35 years, and that's a long time for your retirement savings, especially in an inflationary environment, to support you, which is why the biggest fear is for a lot of people is running out of money. There's also an increase in opportunities. You've probably heard about the Great Resignation recently, and lots of people were, resigning for all kinds of reasons, and whether they were hitting the road in their BMW Sprinters or getting another kind of a job. And now 8 out of 10 people who resigned in the last couple of years say that they regret it. Really interesting. And that's also led to the great reshuffling because a lot of those employers don't want the employees back, or at least they don't want the same employees back. So I think that has something to do with the regret, as people left thinking that it was going to be easier than they thought to find another job or find a better job than what they had. And that money starts running out, and there go the regrets, which I think is some of the same forces of why people are unretiring. It's like, oh, this money isn't going as far as I thought it was, especially with the all the uncertainty and the inflation. And here's something else interesting. According to a 2017 Rand Corporation study, 39% of Americans 65 and older currently employed have previously retired at one point in their lives. So basically 4 out of 10 seniors who are working are already unretired. And we just see this trend continuing where there's greater numbers of people aged over 65 and even well into their 70s or beyond who are either not retiring or who are coming back into the workforce. making all kinds of noise with my notes here. Okay, sorry about that. And there's health benefits to this. There's there's studies that show that people do tend to live longer. Not always, there are different studies, and I think especially if somebody has a really stressful job, obviously very, positive to leave a very stressful job. But in general, people who remain active, who remain in communities, they have a reason to get up in the morning, they have a structured day, they tend to live longer, and also they tend to stay mentally sharper, just, interacting with other people, doing the tasks of their job. People tend to have less dementia, less Alzheimer's. We could look at, whether that's the chicken or the egg, because certainly when people have challenges like that, then they are leaving the workforce because of it. But there's also plenty of research showing that the more active our brains are, the less we deal with those kinds of challenges. So there is definitely a challenge when people have retired early, they took Social Security early, and then they want to go back into the workforce. I was just coaching some people about this and saying they were looking at retiring perhaps at 62, and they had pretty high paying jobs. And well, if one of you wants to go back to work, you could be in a situation where now you're not getting all of your Social Security benefits. And they were like, yeah, we need to look at that. So it's a big advantage to taking Social Security later. Full retirement age is either 66 or 67 now, depending on when you were born. And that allows you more flexibility if you go back to work. Even if you did retire earlier, took Social Security earlier, you can earn, it's somewhere between 21 and 22,000. It basically comes out to $1,770 a month without impacting your Social Security. But I'm a big fan of multiple streams of income, keeping your options open. If you are somebody who you're healthy, especially if your family history is one of longevity, I caution people against retiring too soon for all kinds of reasons. However, if you're in a job, if you're in a line of work that you don't love, find something that you do love. I think that is absolutely one of the important things. I'm glad that we're seeing not retiring or coming back from retirement or all kinds of flexible ways of living. I'm glad that we're seeing this normalized now, that we don't just have one model and everybody's got to do it like this. And to that effect, I'm doing a workshop called The New Retirement Paradigm on June 7th, June 9th. I'm leaving a link if you want to sign up for that, get the details. It's free to attend live. It's a 2-hour workshop, and we're going to dig into the mindset. We're going to dig into 7 ways to start closing that gap, because I believe that financial freedom is a beautiful thing. And when work becomes optional from a financial standpoint, that's when we really can soar, doing the things that we love to do and not having that struggle between, oh, I really don't want to do this job, but I need to, line up your passions, with your income. That is the way to have work that you don't feel like you have to retire from it, that you're not miserable, Really the model right now is kind of like work until you're 65, even if you hate it, and then get the gold watch and stop. And in the New Retirement Paradigm workshop, I'm going to bust down why that is an old, outdated model, give you some new ways to think about that, some new ways. Even if you are one of those people who have undersaved for retirement, I want to give you some other ways, the 7 levers that you can use to start closing that gap so that you're working out of joy, purpose, and passion rather than fear, scarcity, obligation. We want to align our passions with our work. Let me know what you think. Are you happy that there's this trend? Do you plan on retiring? Do you have work that you love, that you see yourself doing for as long as you are able? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, you are powerful, you are prosperous, and you are free. Bye-bye.